The Patterson Casting Club, Oldham Pond, North Haledon, New Jersey, 1939. Joan Salvato has won the New Jersey Sub-Junior Dry Fly Championship. She is 12 years old. In 1945, Joan wins 3 national casting titles. The next year, she is featured in newspaper stories and begins appearing on the cover of regional and national magazines. 2 years later, Joan is in Paris, competing in the Little River event of the French National Casting Tournament in the Bois de Boulogne. Joan calls this photograph Caught because that's where her fly is. Joan has been collecting national casting championships since 1943. In 1951, she wins a national distance fly casting title against all-male competition. Shortly thereafter, Joan turns professional and performs at sportsman shows around the U.S. In 1954, Joan is 27 years old and a featured attraction on the show circuit. She demonstrates all kinds of casts as well as different rods. High heels, an evening gown, and jewelry add a touch of glamour to her elegant casting. Such a unique approach helps catapult Joan further into national prominence. She often demonstrates long-distance casting. 1960 is the year Joan sets an unofficial women's distance record for casting a fly, 161 feet. Joan had owned a dance studio and spent years as a dance instructor. Evidence of such training is seen in her smooth and graceful style. In the 60s, Joan lived in Florida, where she stalked all kinds of fish. Fish small and fish large. Joan has fished all around the world for almost all kinds of fish. Here she is landing one of the famous brook trout from the Minnipe watershed in Labrador. Joan Salvato and world-renowned fisherman Lee Wolf marry in 1967. Few sports have ever enjoyed such a perfect first couple. They travel the country, demonstrating and teaching, casting and fishing. By 1970, Lee and Joan develop a short rod with yarn for line that is great for indoor practice. They name it Fly-O. Joan demonstrates wherever they go. By the end of the 70s, Joan has established herself as one of the most respected and knowledgeable leaders in fly fishing. She's personally taught thousands of men, women, and children how to cast and how to fish. And whenever they can, Lee and Joan fish together. After teaching around the world, in 1979, they decide it is time to open their own school. The Wolf Fishing School on the Beaverkill River in the Catskill Mountains of New York. From that start, people from all walks of life, from all around the globe, young and old, male and female, attend the Wolf School and are taught by the best. In 1991, Lee is 86 years old, and while recertifying his pilot's license, his heart stops. The plane crashes and Lee is gone. But Joan does not stop the teaching she began decades ago. During her career, Joan has written numerous articles and authored books on both casting and fishing. She has held casting and fishing titles and been awarded prestigious honors from numerous conservation organizations. Her casting columns have been enthusiastically followed for decades, and she has even been honored by Congress. Today, Joan continues to give us new insights and teaching methods as she carries on the Salvato and Wolf tradition of excellence.
Hi, I'm Joan Wolf, and I started fly casting and fishing as a child, never dreaming of the effect the sport would have on my life and of how much pleasure and joy it would give me. I can only hope that the casting mechanics I've developed over 60 years will help you become more proficient and give you that same joy. And perhaps I can save you some of those 60 years. Fly casting is an art. It brings the fly rod and fly line to life. It's something you can both feel and see. Because it's an art, it takes time to develop. The fly casting is also science, which encompasses mechanics and disciplines. Once you can understand those mechanics, you'll have an unlimited potential. You'll be able to do anything anyone else can do with a fly rod. You'll go through stages. As a beginner, you'll be delighted when your line and leader land on the water in front of you, hopefully without tangling. The second stage is the quest for distance, casting as far as you can. And the third stage is to make each cast, short or long, with grace and precision. Don't expect to absorb all of the facets of fly casting at once. We're going to do this in segments, chapters if you will, so that you can progress one step at a time at your own pace.
Some historians will probably always question the validity of a widely held belief that it was an English nun in the 15th century who gave us the first written account of fly fishing. It is accepted that Britain is the birthplace of fly fishing as we know it. When anglers headed for the river or lake, the stream or pond, they would carry a tree branch with a primitive line attached to the end. Casting back then could not be described as particularly graceful in style or impressive in distance. But casts were made, and fish were caught. While some may debate the role of that 15th century nun in the history of fly fishing, very few question the role of Joan Wolf as one of the sport's greatest teachers.
Early anglers would have cast with whatever was handy, perhaps a willow stick and horsehair lines. And you can cast with a willow stick, or even a broomstick if you want, but this weighs half a pound. So you certainly tire quickly, and it has no action. It doesn't do anything for you. So over the years, rod materials have progressed from willow to bamboo to glass to carbon fibers. Our new rods are made of graphite. Present rods do something for us. And fly lines from horsehair to silk to nylon to plastics. And now we have beautifully machined reels on which to store them. Our rods really do work for us. We just need to impulse it, and it takes over. Let me show you with Flyo. The action of a rod is triggered by loading it. This is loading. It's the bending of the rod from the tip downward by the acceleration of the stroke and the weight of the line. And once we have loaded it, it unloads and projects the line for us. So each stroke, backward or forward, is a loading and unloading action. And we create open-ended, unrolling loops in two directions. Very important. In all other sports, you set up slowly on the backswing and knock the heck out of something forward. But in fly casting, we need to cast backward as well as forward, and that's your first challenge, to develop those backward throwing muscles, which you probably don't have. There's another difference, and that lies in the weight of the lure. If you've been a spin fisherman, or a bait caster, you know that your lure, which this represents, can be thrown by hand almost as far as it can be cast, because it's a rock with a string behind it. But we fish with flies that are artificial flies made of materials like tinsel and yarn and feathers. And if we take one of those materials and throw it as far as we can, it doesn't go anywhere. So the weight we're casting is not in the lure, but in the weight of the line. And the proof of it is that you can cast a fly line by hand without a rod. And the fly goes along as a passenger. Believe me, it's much easier with a rod. We know that a rod has action, and in order to trigger that action to work for us, we need to start with the grip. Our hand is the connecting link. Put that grip at the base of your fingers and set your thumb on top of it so that you could push it as if it were a button you were pushing. It will require that you have a little airspace behind that first joint. If you put that grip in the center of your palm and wrap your hand around it, it will be very ineffective. So base of the fingers, thumb on top, a little space. And line it up so your rod is an extension of your arm, or your arm is an extension of your rod. And so that when that is close to you, it's not swinging loosely on the side. Now, in order to cast well, we need to use all three parts of our arm: our hand, our forearm, and our upper arm. And let's start with the forearm. The forearm gives back and forth motion, and it moves back and forth in line with the upper arm. If we have a short line, we only need a short stroke, so we don't use all the inches. If we have a long line, we would bring this muscle back to this muscle. So our stroke length is variable, and it's done with that forearm moving back and forth. Now, within that motion, we need to use our wrist. And the first position is a bent down wrist, so that your hand is down as far as it can go. And the second position is a straight wrist. And the easiest way to relate to that is to put a rod in your hand, and a bent down wrist, the rod is against your arm or parallel to it. And when it is a straight wrist, it is 45 degrees from your arm. 45 degrees, no degrees. And a straight wrist takes it 45 degrees away. It's very easy to see. You can look right there. You don't have to look anywhere else. That tells you that it's right. If you bend your wrist backward like this, which I call wristing, it's a new verb, then it takes the rod shaft very low and back, and the tip throws the line down into the water, and you certainly don't want that. So 45 degrees straight wrist is the max. And every cast will start bent down, end with a straight wrist, start forward with a straight wrist, and end with it bent down. Now, when I was a kid and learned to cast in the 30s, that's all we used. And they would put a book or a dollar bill under your arm, a dollar bill for kids because it was more valuable. And I imagine today they'd probably put a Rolex. But anyway, we could only cast this way, just forearm and hand. Well, that didn't work for me very long, and so I threw away that valuable item and lifted my elbow and found that I could cast much more easily. And so that upper arm is part of the casting stroke, and what it does is lift and lower. So your elbow goes up and down as your forearm is going back and forth. The elbow lifts and lowers, and there's no tension in your upper arm. So fly casting then is the back and forth motion of the forearm and hand within the up and down motion of the whole arm. And it's a bit like a chop, and we end up being able to push with that thumb. So you might practice this. Practice it with your bare hand, or if you're at your desk and no one's watching, you could do a pen, we'll use a pen. Because it's all in the motion of those three parts of your arm that casting is accomplished. Try it with your rod, butt, and reel. And now let me show you how it works with a rod and line. As I've said, fly casting is the back and forth motion of the forearm and hand within the up and down motion of the whole arm. The wrist moves from bent down to straight. The forearm comes back in line with the upper arm. And the elbow lifts and lowers to engage that upper arm action. It's an overall acceleration to a stop. These are the basic elements of good casting. This is a roll cast, the easiest of all casts to learn because it has only one stroke and it's forward. You're used to doing that. Its value is that you can be backed up against trees and bushes where you can't take your fly line out of the water behind you, but you can still fish with that roll cast. Let me show you how to start. In order to make a cast, we have to have fly line out of the rod tip. Between the fly line and the fly is leader, and it's monofilament and has no weight, and it doesn't cast by itself. So we need fly line out, and the fly we're using today is yarn for practice. So we need to have that leader out of the rod and some line. And now we're going to use the action of the rod to get that line to pass through it. We stroke it with our rod hand, feed it with our left. This rod is doing all the work, with just a little motion from me because it exaggerates whatever I do. So now we raise the rod, look at the line that's hanging from the tip, position it behind our shoulder. Now in order for that line not to hit the rod, we have to keep our elbow in, our hand out, so it's separate. Belly it, come to a dead stop. Then check your hand, make sure it's up nice and high. Bring your elbow forward. Now aim at a particular inch of water. You can't just cast and hope. You want to be specific. And then in an acceleration to a stop, just leading with the elbow, finishing with the hand, you'll make your cast. Now, it may not come out of the water on that first cast or the second one, but you just roll cast until it does. When it's in a pile and the fly is sinking, it's hard to get started. So you don't worry about that. Just set it up again and do it until you can get a straight cast. Let me take apart the mechanics and show you exactly what the parts of the cast are that make that work. As you raise the rod to its roll cast position, bring your hand in close to your face, bend your elbow, and put your thumbnail literally up at forehead level. Your wrist will be straight, which is shown by this 45-degree angle between the rod and your arm. After you've lined up with your target area, there'll be two parts to the cast. The first part is movement of this whole arm just the way it is, static. Nothing changes, no extension. You're rocking from the shoulder like this. Your elbow leads, going down, up and down. I call this a loading move. It's the beginning of the loading action. And the final part of the loading action will be in the second part, which is a power snap. I'm going to punch my thumb forward, pull my fingers and this rod butt back up against my arm, that way, for the power snap. That's the end of the acceleration. So part one, 90 degrees, close to your face, lead with your elbow, don't change anything, shift your weight. Part two, snap it. So that power snap at the end is what makes that leader straighten out. Push with your thumb, pull back with your fingers. One flows into the other. You can do it. If you can't do it right away, you'll have to try several things. If your line doesn't unroll completely, part of it unrolls and the rest doesn't, it means your acceleration is not good enough. So finish it out, really push it. If it piles in front of you, it means you chopped too low and you didn't push out soon enough. So look at that target area and move your thumb to it and then accelerate and hang in there until that leader straightens out. Now, we've been casting on our primary side for a right-hander, and we can do that as long as the wind is cooperating. But if the wind is blowing from our right, it will blow the line into us, and so we need to be able to cast backhand. And so all we do is, instead of having our elbow in and our hand out as we did to start with, we now tilt our elbow out and put the tip of the rod and the line over our other shoulder. We don't have to choke ourselves. because then we'll get some kind of a slice. We change our feet, put the other foot forward, elbow out, hand right in front of the face so you can be accurate. Same two parts of the cast, a loading move and a power snap. So there are two factors that determine whether you're going to cast forehand or backhand. One is the wind, and the other is the position of the line and fly in the water. If you're in a stream and downstream is to your left, then you'll have to do a backhand cast to make it work right. Once you can do backhand and forehand roll casts, you will love it. This is a basic cast, taking line off the water, letting it unroll behind you, and putting it back down. It's the technique you'll use to present wet flies and streamers when you're fishing downstream. Let's look at the back cast. And in order to do that, I want you to be aware of the connection between the fly line, which is very visible, and the leader, which is not. And the leader has no weight. We have yarn on the end for a fly. So when we do a pickup, we want to pick up the line to that leader connection in what we call a loading move, starting with the rod tip next to the water. Lift the line to the leader connection and power snap the leader and fly out. And I'm snapping my finger because I stopped my backward stroke exactly as that fly leaves the water. Lift the line, out with the fly. You must start with the rod tip down so you get everything in place, and you pick it up sweetly with that loading move, not ripping it off with just a power snap. Pick it up inch by inch, but with speed, and you'll see it. If you pick it up with a power snap, then you will rip the water and scare every fish within half a mile. So rod tip down, relax your arm, and now look at my arm. The rod is against it, parallel. We lift it sweetly and swiftly to that leader connection in what we would call a loading move. Lift, snap. Watch my arm now. The rod is parallel to my arm, my wrist is bent down, and I lift that as a unit all the way to that leader connection. Then power snap the leader and fly out, and as we end that stroke, the rod will have changed its position to 45 degrees from the arm with a straight wrist, and my path was up to my forehead. Lift line, snap, fly. Lift, snap, and dead stop it. And you don't need another quarter of an inch beyond getting that fly out of the water. So coordinate it between your hand and your eyes. Out and stop dead. How long do you wait between the back cast stroke and the forward cast stroke? If you do a good power snap, there will be a little shock in the rod, which you'll feel right here. And when that shock dissipates, come forward, and you'll have perfect timing. On the back cast, we led with the hand and finished with the elbow. And on the forward cast, we're going to lead with the elbow and finish with the hand. On the back cast, we had a long loading move, lifting the line to the leader connection, and a short power snap to get the fly out. On the forward cast, we have a short loading move, just a little bit of elbow motion with the arm in its angled position, no change, until your thumb is roughly perpendicular to a target area, then power snap. Now you need to have a target area. You just can't cast and hope that this fly will land. So there's an imaginary line between your thumb and the target, and as you make the stroke, you follow along that line with the thumb. Reach perpendicular, power snap until your thumb covers the target, and the rest is follow through. There's an imaginary line between your hand and that target area, and your thumb follows along it. And when that thumb is roughly perpendicular to it, power snap, and that will unroll the line right above the water so it all lands lightly. Now to review the basic cast, we begin the back cast with the rod tip close to the water. Lift the line sweetly to the leader connection, power snap the leader and fly out, ending as the fly leaves the water. And we wait until the shock has left the rod and then bring it forward. On the forward cast, we lead with the elbow and finish with the hand. doing our power snap at approximately 90 degrees from a target area. That forward power snap is very important. It's a pushing with the thumb and a pulling back with those bottom fingers. So it's a rotation, a very strong move with the thumb and fingers, and it's really very much like the action of a screen door handle. Let me show it to you this way. This looks like a funny contraption. A student made it for me, but it's actually a screen door handle mounted on a rod grip. And you know that when you use a screen door handle, you push with your thumb and pressure that grip, pushing and pulling back against it. And of course the screen door doesn't move, but when you do that with a rod, push with the thumb and pull back, it moves that rod, it rotates it so that the grip comes back up toward your arm and is parallel. Now if we turn it over and just use it as a rod grip, you'll see what I mean. Push with the thumb, pull back with the fingers and bring it up. And this is your forward cast power snap. Push and pull. Push and pull. And with the rod, push and pull again. Push with the thumb, pull back with those fingers. And it will send your fly line zinging out there. This is false casting. Instead of putting the line back on the water, as we did in the basic cast, we keep it in the air. It's the primary technique for dry fly fishing. You can use it to change direction between presentations. Or you can use it to shake water off your fly and keep it dry. And the third use is to measure, is to see if you have enough line out to reach your target. The cast itself is going to be just a power snap for very short lines, as I have here. A fairly slow power snap with the wrist changing position at the end of each stroke. The other thing is that we just bring this forearm back. That's what does the back cast most easily. Bring that forearm right back towards your upper arm. Even though when you first begin, you're probably going to do it like this. But you don't want to hinge up there. You want to bring this in close. The forearm comes back to the upper arm quickly, because on the forward cast you have all the muscles of your right rod hand to push it forward, but on the back cast you have only speed, so quicker on the back cast. And then the forward cast is that screen door handle power snap. The angle matters. If you want to cast a short cast, take your thumb up to your forehead and finish the cast at your chin level. Forehead to chin, forehead to chin. And the other big help would be if you put your hand under your elbow and take that elbow off on the back cast and put it back on the forward cast. These are the little details that make false casting as beautiful to see and feel as you want it to be. As you lengthen line, you will have to add a little length to your stroke. You have to wait a little longer on the back cast for it to unroll. Use a little more force, a little more speed as that line lengthens. And you need to be able to cast perhaps 40 to 45 feet, so you must learn how to false cast. No matter how much explaining I do while I'm casting, it all moves too fast for you to do any analyzing. And so I have figured out that if we tilt it over to a horizontal plane and lay it out on the grass, you'll be able to see the parts of the cast. I've put two targets out 90 degrees off the rod tip, and they can be anything, a rock, a book, a jacket, whatever you like, just to give you a reference. This form represents the parts of the cast. First section would be the loading move, the second section the power snap, and the third section follow through in both directions. The heart of the cast is the power snap, because that forms the loop and determines exactly where your line is going to unroll. And the power snap is all you need for very short casts, perhaps up to 35 or 40 feet. But when we have longer lines, and just power snap. Now that move is too short and sudden, and we get tangles, and a tailing loop is caused that way. So that power snap is not sufficient, and as our line lengthens, we must include more in the stroke. And what we're going to include is a loading move, get everything started in the same direction, rod, line, leader, and fly, then power snap, and then follow through. Follow through in this direction is loading move here, in the back direction. Loading move, power snap, follow through. By the way, we call follow through backward drift, and you've never done it, so it's a new idea, but this is the way to find it. Load, snap, follow through, load, snap, drift. Once you can see those parts and do it slowly, it will help your understanding. This is a tailing loop. Instead of an open-ended unrolling loop, the top level collapses and the loop closes, creating a tail. This is the way the knots that are formed in your leader that we blame on the wind come about. And the primary cause of a tailing loop is lack of a loading move. Let me show you. In a good cast, we begin with a loading move, getting rod, line, leader, and fly in motion before the power snap and follow through. On the tailing loop, we eliminate that loading move and just snap. And then we get something that could be as dreadful as that. And the line comes under the rod tip and catches and creates that nice knot. So remember, the first move is the important one. Move it before you snap it, and then the rest will be easy. Now, there are other things we can see in this horizontal plane. And the first one of interest is the stroke length. How many inches does your hand have to travel to make a good cast? These targets are 90 degrees off the rod tip, and that is a 180-degree line, and your best casts are made within those parameters. So if your stroke length is correct, the fly will go to the target. If your stroke length is too long, it will go behind the target. If it's too short, it will go ahead of the target. So it's very easy for you to figure that out. You just watch it in both directions and adjust your hand stroke accordingly. Now you can also see timing. Timing is a thing of feeling, but now you can see it. Just watch forward and backward cast. And as that line unrolls and the leader starts to unroll, start the next stroke. Because the line has weight, and if you wait till everything unrolls, it will fall apart on you and you'll lose the nice feeling of casting. So watch it, then close your eyes and feel it. The third thing you can learn is line speed. The stroke is an acceleration to a stop. If you don't accelerate enough, you don't get the loop unrolling fully, and so you're in trouble. Or if you accelerate too hard, you get something like this. When it's perfect, the loop will unroll without falling dramatically, and you can tell by looking at it. The fourth thing you can learn is how much power to apply. Lots of people think that casting is all about power, and it's not. It's about speed. There are a lot of beginning casters who think this is a matter of strength, and they punch it, and you get all kinds of ripples in your line. And so use less strength and more speed, and make it smooth, and enjoy it. Four things: stroke length, timing, line speed, and power. And then take this cast up to a vertical position and try to incorporate that follow through backward, that drift move. After the backcast power snap, follow it up. You'll find it becomes rotary. Your elbow goes around in a little circle. And now look at that loop. See if it's going to your target. There is so much you can learn by casting in the horizontal plane on grass in slow motion. You can see stroke length, timing, line speed, and power, in addition to seeing each segment of the cast one after the other in slow motion. This is the best tool I can give you in terms of self-analysis so that you can figure out what makes a cast work. I hope you'll use it. order to cope with all of the obstacles that Mother Nature throws at us in the form of wind or trees in the wrong place, we have to be able to cast from horizontal on the right to nearly horizontal on the left. And it's really quite easy. It's just a rotation of the elbow. If it's a forehand side, then the elbow stays in close. When you get to horizontal, the palm will be up. If it's backhand, the elbow raises. As the rod angle gets lower, the elbow gets higher. But keep your hand above your eye level for perfect eye-hand target coordination. I'll demonstrate on these bushes. Imagine a clock face. And when I cast vertically, I'm at 12 o'clock. Now to go to 1 o'clock, angle the rod, elbow stays close. 2 o'clock, a little lower. And at 3, my palm is up, elbow close. On the backhand side from 12, the elbow lifts, 11, 10, 9. And the lower the angle, the more sure you want to put that hand just above your eye level. Knowing this, you'll be able to handle all kinds of conditions. This is an on-the-stream situation where overhanging branches and rock walls require a backhand low-angle cast. I want to talk to you about changing direction, and I'll do it first with the rod butt so I can do it slowly. When you put a fly on moving water, it doesn't stay there. It goes downstream or across the current. And now to present again, you must change direction, and the easiest way is to pick up the line and false cast your way back to that first position. But as we get better at casting, we don't want to waste all that time with the fly in the air, and so we use another technique to make it easier. We change position between the back cast and the forward cast. We end the stroke. While the line unrolls, we reposition our hand and put it down again. So it's a rotation. The elbow goes out, the hand goes across, or back cast, the elbow comes in and the hand goes across. We're doing this repositioning while the line is unrolling, and I call that drift time. And now with the rod. Drift is follow through backward. We end the stroke and reposition our hand during the time the line unrolls. Stroke, reposition, stroke. We can use that same time, that drift time, to reposition sideward for a change of direction. Stroke, reposition, stroke. Stroke, reposition, stroke. You can go from a high angle to a low one. Put that line under an overhanging branch. The drift move is a smooth move, its body and its arm, and it gives a sense of completeness to the cast. We can drift sideward to change direction and move the hand sideward between strokes while that line is unrolling. So that drift move gives us the opportunity to do wonderful things, and it feels just great. There is never a dull moment, there's never a dead moment in the cast when you use drift. It's wonderful. Hand tension is a major factor in whether or not we can make the hundreds of casts that are sometimes necessary in a long day's fishing. If you have a death clutch on that handle and never relax, you're going to end up with a very sore hand and sore arm muscles. We need to use that tension precisely, and we need to rest on every single stroke, and we rest while the line is unrolling. I think I can show it to you best with a sponge, dampened. The loading move would be an expanded sponge, and on the power snap we contract it, and while the line is unrolling in the drift mood, it's expanded and we rest. On the forward cast, expanded. On the power snap, which is like the screen door handle, compressed and follow through. So it's loading move, snap, follow, load, snap, follow. So we only use tension on the power snap, and the rest of the time we are not fighting it. I'll put it next to the rod. See if you can see that. A loading move, a power snap, follow through, load, power snap, follow through. Load, power snap, follow through, load, power snap, follow through. In this way, you'll be able to make those hundreds of casts in a day and enjoy every one of them. You'll be a better fly fisherman if you can understand the design of your fly line. These are the basic designs. As you look at this page, you would attach your leader on the left side, and all of these lines are about 90 feet long. The first is a level line. It has a constant diameter throughout its entire length, and it does not lend itself well to delicate presentations. The double taper is the traditional trout fisherman's line. It begins with an 8 to 10 foot tapered section and then has a constant diameter belly, as we call it, for 70 feet, followed by a second taper. The next two designs are called weight forwards because all of the weight is concentrated at the front end of the line. The traditional weight forward line is 30 feet of weight. It has a shorter taper than the double taper, 6 to 8 feet, followed by a level belly. Then there's a back taper and shooting line, which is finer diametered. The triangle taper was designed by my late husband, Lee Wolf. This doesn't have a belly. It's a single continuous taper for the length of its weighted section, starting with a small diameter and getting larger and larger and larger. It too has a back taper and a fine diameter shooting line. These two weight forward lines will enable you to reach your longest distances with a minimum number of false casts. Marking your lines is the way to make the best use of those weight forward designs. This is a triangle taper, and I'll just strip out the weight forward section of it and show you what I'm talking about. Here it's easy to see where the weighted section ends. It's very thick, and the shooting line is much thinner. The diameters are dramatically different. And so you put a mark at the beginning of that shooting line with a waterproof marker. And then when you're making long casts, one after the other, you need only retrieve that shooting line until that mark is at your rod tip. You pick that weighted section off the water and make a forward cast and shoot the rest. It's magic. Another marking you might want to make is for weight at the front end of the line next to the leader connection. If it's a 5-weight line, put 5 dots on it. A 6-weight line, 6 dots. Whatever system you'd like, and then you'll always know what line weight you have, especially when that little label the manufacturer includes falls off your reel. I hope these little tips will be helpful to you. Shooting line is somewhat magical. It enables you to carry X number of feet of line in the air, but make a presentation that's a lot farther. And when you can shoot line, you can begin your fishing with the fly in your hand, start to false cast, and on every back cast, pull line off the reel. Then you release it on the forward cast, extending its length. As you get more line out, your stroke lengthens, your pull lengthens, your timing slows down until you have reached that fishable area. Now this brings up the subject of the line hand. It has duties. It has certain things it has to do. It has to service the rod hand. When your line is out, this line hand should put line under the middle finger of the rod and retrieve from behind that finger. When it has retrieved all you want, it reaches up, takes line from the finger and separates the two so that you are not going to get this line wrapped around that rod. Both hands have to move together in unison, parallel. The line hand can be a little lower than the rod hand, but it needs to move so that the rod is not sliding up and down on the line as it would if you kept it still. You want that feeling of complete weight, know exactly what you're casting. You also have to keep that line away from the rod or away from your vest, and so you need to be able to have a space as if you could put your head through it. That's a good safe space. And so now when we're going to shoot line, we shoot after the forward power snap. There's the power snap. power snap. And you can see this easily by looking up in the air, and after the power snap you'll see line ahead of the rod tip. Snap, snap, see the line. There it is. Let me show you on the water. Remember that you're going to look for the line ahead of the rod, which happens after the power snap. The stroke is finished, and then you release. It's very likely that you won't do this perfectly the first few times, and what you will do is release the line at the same time you snap, and then you get this sort of thing where it doesn't go anywhere, it wraps around the rod, and the line doesn't project. So after you do that a few times, then just hold on to that line a little longer until you see that ahead, and then release it. And it will work. Another way to practice shooting line is just by false casting and using your line hand as a control. On every back cast, you pinch the line. On every forward cast, you release it. Pinch, release. Pinch, release. And this is also a way you can control your accuracy. If you're going to shoot line and you see you want to stop it, you can also pinch it off with that line hand. Timing changes when we shoot line. If we are not shooting line, the timing is very even. But when we're going to shoot line, we need to energize that rod for the extra line that's going to be shot. And so we go extra hard back, wait a second, and then a little extra energy forward. Bringing it back with more force on the back cast does not mean bringing it back farther. It just means coming up almost against the wall, extra hard. And then that line will unroll completely and pull back on the rod tip, and that's sort of a preloading. It has your rod already bending so that when you come forward, you get a lot more energy out of the rod. One more time on the timing. Even, even, harder, wait longer, drive it. I think you can see now why I said that shooting line is a magical technique. A dry fly fisherman has to be aware of what we call drag. Drag is the motion that makes that fly look as if it's a water skier instead of a free-floating insect. And it's caused by the currents that work on the line and leader. And so we need to affect that by doing what we call a reach cast, which will put the rod and the upper part of the line upstream of the fly so that the fly drifts down first and gives you a longer float before any drag can affect it. The way we do it is to make our power snap where we want this to go for accuracy, and then during follow-through time, we're going to change our position. So you need to find out where follow-through time is. Power snap, follow-through. Now I'm going to go power snap. During follow-through, I move the rod upstream with the line. There's one other factor. If I just cast and don't shoot any line or slip any line, I will shorten my cast. So after I do the power snap, I release the line hand and the fly will go where I want it and be accurate. Now, because the river is running from my left to my right, I reach upstream across my body. If the river were running in the other direction, then I would reach out like that. Once you have practiced this and understand it and just know you can do it, you're going to have longer, drag-free floats in all of your dry fly fishing. This is an oval cast technique. I learned it from Lee Wolf, who developed it for using short 6-foot rods. But with long rods, we can take advantage of it. If you have a heavy, air-resistant bug or if you're in deep water with a rocky shore behind you where you might hit your fly on it, it's a really good technique because the line goes under the rod tip, and as the line and leader unroll, they're riding up. In our traditional cast, the line and leader unroll downward. And so when you need it, when you need that line and leader to go in a different direction, the oval really helps. Now, the way we do it is to adjust the power snap. On the standard power snap, we make a straight one, directly straight, but on the oval, we're going to curve it. My hand is going to move in a shallow curve from one point to another, like this. And that makes the line come in under the rod tip. Then it rides up, we drift up, and the forward cast is just a standard, traditional forward cast, straight line cast. So a curving power snap on the back cast, and straight power snap on the forward cast. It's easy to learn because it's circular. A circle is an easy path to follow. Spend a little time with this, and you'll find it will solve problems that standard casting doesn't solve. Wind can do crazy things to your fly line and be very scary. I can remember when I was very much afraid of it, but over the years I've learned that there are ways you can counteract it. I'd like to just pass by you winds from the four quarters, in front of you, to the side, behind you, and to the other side, and suggest ways of dealing with that. Headwinds are going to disturb the water surface, so you don't need to present delicately, you just need to drive it down to get that fly on the water. And so crouching and getting low is very helpful. And over your head is fine because you are strongest in that forward chopping position. Don't take that rod back any farther than vertical so that you don't have to fight the wind on your forward cast. There's a cushion of air under a headwind, and so you can also use a horizontal cast to get under it, some angle lower than vertical. So you have a few options there. Now, the wind is coming this way, but now I'm going to turn and let you see the effect it will have on me on my casting side. I can pick that line up from the right, but I'm going to have to reposition and take it out on the left side. In other words, I'm backhand casting so that the line is safely on this side of me and it won't come near me. And so backhand casting solves the problem of wind from your casting side. I'll make a quarter turn, and now with the wind coming from my back in this direction, we will have to make changes in our timing and in our power. If we do a normal cast and hope that line can unroll, it will not. The line will be crashed back into your body because the wind won't let it unroll. So all we need to do is get it up high and then come forward right away, letting the wind help unroll it in the direction you're going. So we use extra force and change the timing so we do not wait for that line to unroll. And don't let your rod tip go back any farther than vertical on heavy winds. Just up and drive it out. Now, we have one more quarter, and this is an easy one. The wind is still coming from this direction, and so now it's from my left. I'm a right-handed caster. I can cast at any angle I want, and the fly will be safely away from me. So this is the easiest of the quarters. But what you need to practice are the difficult ones. Don't just go out and practice casting on a sunny, even-tempered day. Go out when the wind is blowing and do what I've just done. Put your face to it, put your back to it, do those quarters. Do it without a hook, but you will find that it will do a great deal for you and you'll go out with confidence. And when you're in the river fishing with the wind, it'll just be a breeze. That's a double haul. It makes casting long lines easier so that you can fish all day and not tire. What happens is that by using that second hand, you are adding speed to your line. The rod is loaded more deeply, and that transfers to greater energy in your line. And you need high line speed for longer casts or for casting into winds. Let me show you the difference between using a haul and not using a haul. With this much line, I have to do everything perfectly. I have long strokes, lots of body motion, and lots of force. When I add the double haul, my stroke shortens, there's less body movement, and I have gained line speed. Learning to double haul is easy if you have those rod hand mechanics down pat. If you do it too soon in your progress, it will be like trying to pat your tummy and rub your head at the same time. So get those rod hand mechanics down, and then the haul will become very simple to learn. Let's look at how you can learn it in the horizontal plane in close to slow motion. If you remember that the power snap is in the middle of your stroke, the first part is a loading move, and we can learn the double haul the same way. Loading move, power snap, follow through. Load, snap, follow. Now, to add the hauling hand, we do not haul anywhere except on the power snap. So the first move is just to get everything started moving through the air. Now on the power snap, the rod hand goes right and the line hand goes left, exactly the same length of time, and follow through will give the line back and let it land on the grass. No hauling, power snap and haul, give the line back. Watch my line hand moves away and always is above the reel so it doesn't get wrapped around the rod. Loading move, power snap, follow through. Remember that the haul is fast and the giving back is slow. The targets are out there only for a reference. If you make too long a haul or too long a stroke, you'll see that the fly and line will go far away from it. If it's too short, it will go up ahead of it. And so to have some semblance of what's right, you want to just keep it going straight and stop it in line with the target. And after you have done this a few times, and let it land and think you know what's happening, then you can pick it up in the air. Remember though that on the haul, the hands move opposite each other, completely opposite. And on this forward one, I'm going to pull my hand down to my side so that the line doesn't get caught on the reel. Now, keep it up in the air, and off the tip of the rod, that line should be unrolling in a straight line, in line with the targets. Haul, give back only at the speed that that unrolling line allows you to. Don't give it back all at once now, as we did on the grass. Slow it down. The haul is fast, the give back is slow. Fast, slow, fast, slow. After you've done this a few times and think it's beautiful, I'll tell you what else to do. Close your eyes. And then you'll feel it, and it will be smooth, and your timing will be better. And then open your eyes and see the result, and when it feels good, let it go. Here's an exercise you can use to practice your double haul that's very easy and it's actually fun. You don't have to think about the mechanics. Put the rod under your arm against your body and wrap your arm around it. And then just swing your body from side to side to make the stroke. Now add the line hand and start hauling. Haul away from the rod. Haul it, haul it. Don't give that line back fast. Give that line back very slowly. It's just about as easy as it looks. Now let me demonstrate it in your normal fishing planes. Let's start with that vertical plane. Remember that the line hand pulls away from the rod hand, so you're going forward, which is a little unnatural until you get used to it. But I'm trying to keep that line from getting tangled around the reel. If I pulled it down this way, I might get caught on that reel as I come up. So away keeps that line free of the reel. For the off vertical cast, I'm going to turn my back foot out, turn my body slightly to the side, and again, that hand pulls away on the power snap and gives the line back sweetly. I always picture that being like a violin bow coming up. Sweetly. Quickly, sweetly. I hope you get to like it as much as I do. There are two stances that will solve all of the problems that you encounter between distance and accuracy. Accuracy is a little bit like throwing a dart. Doesn't matter how you stand, but your shoulders are square to the target. The rod is vertical. My hand comes in close to my face, and it's a little bit like throwing darts. You're thinking of accuracy. As that line lengthens, drop back 1 foot and shift your weight, and that makes your strokes a little bit longer. But as we get long lines, it gets to be more like a baseball throw. And we change our stance from square to the target by rotating at the hips, opening the shoulders backward, angling the rod off vertical to about 130, and rotating my shoulders from square to the target to sideward to the target. And that way I can get the longest strokes most easily. Now let me show you how to do it without a rod. Let's just make our thumb the rod shaft. And we're going to tilt it off. Instead of vertical, we're going to tilt it off to 130. We're going to turn our back foot out so we can rotate. And we're going to start the cast on a straight line coming back into the body. Elbow remains forward. At the end of the power snap, those shoulders have turned sideward. The drift move follows out, and the loading move forward comes in again. And now the power snap is right to the target and follow through. So you start with your shoulders square to the target, and it's on the power snap that you rotate. Out, in, cast. The thumbnail is literally making a straight line, which the elbow facilitates. But I end that back cast stroke with the elbow forward and only reach out on the drift move. You can look at your back cast in this technique because it's not going directly behind you. It's a very comfortable position and can really let you cast your farthest in tough conditions. For your longest casts, in addition to the double haul technique, you want to add another one, which is shooting line on the final back cast. This will give you the longest cast you can make. We shoot line on the back cast at the same time in the stroke that we do on the forward cast, which is after the power snap, right there. How much you shoot depends on feeling. We can't say 2 feet, 3 feet. You'll know. If it's too much, the whole thing will collapse. So you have to practice it until you find out how much you can shoot for any given outfit. So watch what it does. We're going to pick up and do 2 full casts as if we were fishing. I'm only going to shoot line backward once on the second full cast. So I'll do that for you. No shoot, shoot a little, shoot a lot, and do it. Let me do it one more time. So I pick up, shoot a little, shoot a lot, and present it. Once you can do this, you will be so comfortable in making those long casts, and you'll have your fly back in the water as quickly as possible. On a double haul technique, we give the line back after we have pulled it in. But if we should have a back wind, we can't do that because you can't give that back against that wind, especially with a heavy fly or an air-resistant bug. So to solve that problem, we have a single haul. And a single haul is not half of a double haul. A single haul pulls the line in, but it does not give it back. So we can do a single haul on the back cast. coordinated exactly with the power snap. And now through the rest of the cast, the hands maintain their positions, and we just come forward, no haul, and cast. Or we can do a single haul only on the forward cast, where we don't haul, now we haul with the power snap. And we can also do 2 single hauls for your longest cast. I'm going to haul on the back cast, haul, don't give it back, haul. So those hauls coordinate with the power snap on the back cast and on the forward cast. And at no point do you give the line back. When we're fishing with long lines and have to repeat the same length over and over again, we have to retrieve that shooting line in order to make the same cast. And if we just put that line in the river's current will take it downstream and add too much resistance, and you won't be able to shoot long lines. So we have to make loops in our line hand. But first we make a loop for the river so that it's touching the water, and then on the cast there will be resistance and it will not come up and wrap around your rod butt. So that's the river loop. Then I'm going to count stretches of my hand. That's 1 stretch, 2 stretches, and drop the second. So I have another large loop. Then 1, I'm going to shorten it, and a half, drop the half. And the final loop will be the shortest, just 1 stretch. And I must hold them carefully on my fingers and not twist it. Now if I do everything right, that should all come off my hand into a beautiful long cast. This is not an easy technique. It took me a very long time to be able to work it out, and I have to think carefully every single time I do it. But once you have mastered it, it makes getting that fly back in the water quickly as easy as possible. Practice is what's going to make you a better caster. Look around you, wherever you live, and you'll find targets. Here we have all kinds of things. A deck gives me an opportunity to practice casting under it, which would be the same as being able to cast under an overhanging branch. A set of stairs gives you numerous opportunities. You can cast at different levels, different lengths. Just pop that fly so it touches a stair. So first, find out how long your line is and shorten or lengthen it. So you might start at the very bottom and then work your way up, adding a little bit of line on each step. And then if you have a slot like this between the house and the rail, and so casting in between those two in that slot, you can practice going in there, because there are lots of times you need to be very straight on your casting. A truck gives you all kinds of targets. Start with the biggest part, with the hood, any place on the hood. There, and you'll find out how much line exactly and what it looks like. Then touch the windshield, shorten your line and work on that little rear view mirror. Lengthen your line if necessary. Touch the window. Touch the back windows. And don't forget the tires. Another horizontal cast. Flower pots are always good targets. Watch where your line is unrolling. Try to pop it in there. Practice has got to be fun or you just won't do it. So you don't need to go to a casting pond or a river to practice. It's right there wherever you live. Make it a game, make it challenging, make it fun, because it really is, and it will pay off. The longer we fish, the fewer casts we want to make. We don't want to waste time with that fly in the air. So instead of picking up the line opposite where it's been lying and false casting our way to another position, we can pick it up opposite where we're going, throw the back cast back, and there is the forward cast. From this direction, I'm going to make my back cast opposite where I'm going, lift, opposite, and put it down. And I've saved all those casts. The way I'm doing it is to rotate my hand and arm on the loading move. As I come up, I'll rotate so the palm is going to be up and my back cast is going to be made opposite. From left to right, I'm going to rotate with my palm going downward, and it comes up on the loading move, snap, present. And that way we save lots of time with those false casts. This is normal false casting, the way you will present 9 out of 10 of your dry fly presentations. Everything lands sweetly and just about at once. There's no extra force, it's all smooth. But there's another technique which we call hovering, which allows you to be more specific in terms of being accurate and to have some way of judging where that fly is relative to your target. The fly hovers in the air for a split second, and you can see it relative to that target. And the way we do it is to add a little extra force in the power snap. Make a short arc through that power snap and have the angle of the cast move from high to low. The loop unrolls to the water and stops just above it until you see where it is. You like it, you just drop it. Watch it again. Very short stroke, very short power snap. The fly hangs in the air. You like it, you drop it. Presentation is all about positioning. If you can stand in a place where presentation is easy and keeps you hidden from the trout, then you've got it made. But sometimes we have difficult circumstances. Right now I have deep water ahead of me, and so I can't just make a straight cast to get around that rock. I have got to do a horizontal cast, but I can't just do a straight horizontal cast or it goes over the rock. So what I'm going to do is a way of curving a cast. I start with horizontal, and then I pull the rod tip back and slip line to present it around that curve. Watch again. After the power snap, I'll slip line and pull the rod tip back and get that fly way up where I can hardly see it. Again. There's a second technique for curving that starts with a vertical cast. And now instead of making a straight power snap, I'm going to curve my power snap so the tip of the rod will curve outward. You see how that line is shaped? And then drop it. Watch it again. Straight, curving power snap, curving power snap, curving power snap. This is another special technique I call reversing, in which you make 2 forward casts, 1 in each direction. And why would you do that? Well, there are a couple of reasons. You might have an area behind you that's very small for your back cast, and you're afraid you're going to hit it. And so you can turn around and look at where you're going to put that back cast, and then reverse and present. Another reason you would want to do it would be if you had very heavy winds coming from the back, and so you could cast into it, because you're much stronger with a forward cast than you are with a back cast. Reverse and then go with the wind to present it. And the way you do it is to make the cast after the power snap. While the line is unrolling, pull your elbow in, snap, pull in, and ready for your power snap in the right direction. Watch it one more time. Power snap, reverse, put your eye on the target, and you'll feel as if you have outwitted something. This is a cast I use for weighted nymphs. Instead of making a standard back and forward cast, at the end of the drift, just lift the line and the leader until the weighted nymph is on the surface, reverse your arm, and present again upstream. And you have saved lots of time, and you find it very comfortable and easy and safe, because that weighted fly is not waving around in the air. So as the drift ends, point your rod at the fly, lift the line, lift the leader, turn your hand and arm, bring it in close to you, and power snap forward. Always use a soft power snap with a weighted nymph. Learning to do what you've been watching will be a lot easier if you think in terms of practicing indoors, not just outdoors. It's a matter of thinking about it, and you always carry with you your hand, the connecting link. If you're in an office, put a pen in your hand. Use it as the rod shaft. If you're in the kitchen, use a cooking spoon. You can go through all the hand motions and the mechanics with these things. Or you can use your own rod butt, with or without a reel, going back and forth and up and down in those casting mechanics. This is where the focus is. Or you can get an indoor practice rod like this, which we call Fly-O. It's a little 3-foot rod with yarn for line. And even though the yarn has no weight like a fly line does, it has bulk and requires the same kind of effort to push it through the air. And yes, it does load that rod. Now, golfers have always been able to practice their swings and putts indoors with small foam golf balls. And that's what gave my late husband, Lee Wolf, the idea for this. Now, if you have a ceiling that's too low, you can sit on a stool or on a chair, or you can kneel. And kneeling puts it all into a fishing perspective, as if you were wading knee-deep in a river. You can practice all kinds of techniques with this Fly-O. You start with the roll cast, the one-stroke technique. Belly the line behind your hand and roll it out on the rug. Now, it may not roll out perfectly on the rug, but it will roll out perfectly on the water. And you can do your basic cast, which is picking the line up and putting it down. And you can false cast to practice presenting dry flies with delicacy, both forehand, and practice that backhand in case the wind is blowing from your casting side. You can cast in all of the angles. You can cast from horizontal on the right to nearly horizontal on the left. And we can make change of direction casts, where you make a back cast on one side, reposition, and make your cast on another side. Change sides, back, change, forward. And don't forget the oval. The oval brings the line in under the rod tip. And as that line unrolls, it is traveling upward. Very, very good for weighted nymphs and bulky flies, because the line is unrolling upward, and so you're less likely to tangle. And there's that off-vertical stance for long casts when you're wading deeply. And you need all the leverage you can get. This is the perfect position. And don't forget that horizontal exercise. Put out 2 targets. They can be plates or books or anything. Put one out to the right and one out to the left. The line should be level and in line with the rod tip, and the target's placed a little bit farther than the very end of the yarn. When you pick up the rod, rotate your hand so that your palm is up, because this is horizontal casting. The object is to unroll that line so the fly will be right above the target at full extension. And what's going to make that happen is perfect stroke length, the number of inches my hand travels. If it's too long, the line and fly will go behind the targets, and if it's too short, they'll go above. So when it's just right, your eyes will tell you. Now you can see other things with this exercise. You can see timing. How long do you wait to let that line unroll? Well, watch it. If you wait too long, all the tension will go out of it, and then you have to start over. So you want to start your next stroke just as that leader and fly unroll. You can see line speed, which means accelerate to a stop, so that line unrolls without falling dramatically. So if we're too slow, this is what we get. So line speed is another thing to see. And power. If you punch it too hard, you'll get all kinds of bumps and lumps in that line. Remember that casting is much more speed than it is force. A little finesse. So when everything is working well for you, keep your stroke length and work your way up to a vertical plane. Put it right between your eyes. Keep the same length stroke between forehead and chin. Now your back cast target is up in the air. And then watch that loop unroll. And as it unrolls toward the target, if you like it, you just follow it down. One of the wonderful things about this FLYO, this learning tool, is that you can correct your own faults as well as practice different techniques. I'm going to ask my student, Stuart, to demonstrate some of the most common faults. Start with waving, Stuart. Here, the rod is going through a 180-degree arc, and there are no stops. Now show wristing. The wrist is only a few inches of movement. That wrist gives a very short stroke, not long enough, and you'll end up with tailing loops. And hinging, the elbow remains rigid and the forearm is extending completely. Again, wide loops, no control. And throwing. Lots of people think that by putting their shoulder into it, they'll make it go farther. And you're basically bypassing the rod, working too hard. Let's correct them. Start with waving and make that arc only 90 degrees instead of 180. Strong stops at each end. Doesn't that feel better? Okay, and now wristing. You want to use your forearm, bend your elbow and bring that hand back and forth and reduce the wrist action from bent down to straight. That's the way. Good. And hinging. Now in hinging we want to keep this arm bent and we want that elbow to move up and down in a chopping motion. That's it. Think about chopping. Keep your arm bent. And throwing. Take your shoulder out of it and put all your effort in your forearm and hand. Use your hand as if it were a screen door handle. Push with the thumb, pull back with the fingers. That's much better. You know, if you didn't have an instructor, you could use a mirror to correct your own faults. It's practically magic. Come, let me show you.
Okay.
This is faster than instant replay. You can watch in the mirror for the same things I saw. So let's do it all again. Start with waving. You see how that arc is 180 degrees? Big arc. Now remember that you reduced it to 90 degrees with short stops. Good. That's the way. Now you have form. Let's do wristing. Look and see how short that motion is. And now use your forearm instead. And you're hinging when you weren't moving that elbow and just stretching out that arm, and then we changed it to chopping. Elbow moving up and down. Doesn't that feel better? All right, now do throwing. See how that shoulder really punches way out there, how hard you're working? Too much shoulder. Look at that. Wow. Fix it. You now fix it. Take the shoulder out of it. Put all your effort into that forearm and hand with that feeling of the screen door handle. Punch with your thumb and pull back with your fingers. That's looking good. You have the makings of a really good caster.
Thanks.
And so do you. Use the mirror and watch your casting form improve. If it looks good to you at home, it's going to be even better on the water. I hope that what you've seen has been helpful. Realize that expertise doesn't come easily. You're going to have to practice. But each time you do, you'll see progress. You're also going to progress as an angler through stages. The first stage is to catch as many fish as you can, by the numbers. And the second stage, of course, is to get the biggest ones, so you can take photos and brag. And the third stage is to go after those smarter fish, the difficult ones. And I'm finding a fourth stage, and it's just being there. I'm happy whether I'm catching fish or not, just to be in the beautiful places game fish live. I love it all. There's bonding with fishing friends, the history, the literature, and last but not least, just being in the out of doors and having a magic connection to a wild creature. I hope you'll find that too. There's a really good group of people who have made this project a reality. They're committed to the sport and to quality products. As a casting columnist and contributor to Fly Rod and Reel magazine, I've watched the magazine develop to encompass both information and entertainment. Simms fishing products include all kinds of waders and wading shoes and vests and rain jackets, and for chillier weather, the great windstopper jackets and gloves. Simms products keep you comfortable. And of course, I have a special affection for Royal Wulff products, the variety of triangle taper lines designed to meet every angler's needs: books, videos, surface stoneflies, and Flyo. The Winston Rod Company and I have something in common. We were both born in the late 20s. Winston makes lovely rods of bamboo and graphite, including the Joan Wulff favorite, an 8.5-foot, 3-piece, 5-weight rod with a special grip I've designed that has a thumb groove in it. I love it. And Bauer fly reels. Bauer is a leader in the manufacture of large arbor fly reels, which help to retrieve line more quickly. Bauer has won Best of Show award at the International Fly Tackle Dealer Convention. To all of these good people, I say, thank you. I first learned to cast 2 rods in the 50s when I was wanting to enhance my demonstrations in sportsman shows. And at first I tried to cast with my left hand alone and found that a bit difficult. But when I added the second rod, it was easy because one just followed the other, and they became synchronized. Eventually, I learned to cast them separately. But I've always enjoyed the look of them together. They make a pretty pattern. And I picture myself in a gown with lovely music. When I think about something practical, though, as a fly fisherman, when would I ever want to have 2 rods? And it might be if there were 2 big fish rising in the same stream. And that's fine. But what if they both take?